Oh, hello. I'm reading my first academic course about esotericism, and the name of my course is, as you see, Contemporary Esotericism, and it's at the Gothenburg University in Sweden. And now I will discuss paper by Wheeler, Graham John Wheeler. I finished this paper, and I will now try to summarize it. So this is about the less banishing ritual of the pentagram. First, I found this article at the first glance boring, but then I became almost enthusiastic. It contained a lot of exciting stuff. So even though the name, the less banishing ritual of the pentagram sounds dry, it is important to understand esotericism. And Wheeler discusses the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. Golden Dawn. Speaking of dawn, we could see. Do we see the sun somewhere? No. The sun is very hot today. It is appropriate to greet the sun. Since we are speaking about the dawn, we are now in Piraeus. It's not longer dawn because it's actually 2 p.m. But anyhow, you get the idea. So in the late 19th century, this order known as Golden Dawn, which was very, very influential, is perhaps the most well-known esoteric order beside Freemasonry. And Crowley was one of the members of the Golden Dawn, and one of the key, we could say, the most important figure, except for Crowley. Crowley came in a little bit later, was Mathers, Samuel Liddell Mathers. And he was, we could say, the founder of Golden Dawn. His pupil was Crowley. And he was the key figure behind the Golden Dawn and this ritual of the pentagram. What did I find interesting in this paper? So, and we can read here, page 9. Anybody who's interested in Crowley should be interested in this topic. So on page 9, we read that Crowley played a significant role in the preservation and transmission of the pentagram ritual. He incorporated into his Liber O, 1909, which seems to have been the first time that it appeared in print. So here I got really interested when they mentioned Crowley. I have to admit that I'm still a beginner in the field of esotericism, so all this is new information completely to me. But I'm learning. I'm a quick learner. And so they describe different rituals, like the Kabbalistic cross. Take a steel dagger in the right hand, face east, touch the forehead and say, Ate thou art. Touch the breast and say, Mark the kingdom. Touch the right shoulder. And I could actually, I don't have access to a steel dagger, but I could try to imitate it. Touch the forehead and say, Ate thou art. Touch thy breast and say, Malkuth, the kingdom. Touch thy right shoulder and say, Vegebura, the power. Touch thy left shoulder and say, Vegedulah, the glory. And then you should also clasp the dagger between the fingers. And this Wheeler, the author of this article, is very competent, has a high linguistic competence. So he observes that the Hebrew elements of this pentagram ritual are problematic. It would be more correct to use the definite article ha in front of the names of the three Sepirot, Malkut, Kiburan, Kidula. The Sephardic pronunciation is used, but again in an imperfect form. For example, in the names of the Sepirot, Malkut is rendered in the correct fashion, but Kibura is rendered as Kibura. This is proof, if proof were needed, that we are dealing with a constructed ritual put together by Gentiles. So it's not real Kabbalah used by Jews. And then it's Wheeler comments that the topic begins with the practitioner facing east. This imitates in more or less all rituals where the Christian or not face east. As we have intimated, the three main nouns mentioned in the text are Kabbalistic. Malkuth, Kibura are the names of Sephirot, while Kidula, greatness, is an alternate form for the Sephira Shesed. And here, if you're interested, this is actually interesting. Only, however, the earlier text adopts the orthodox tradition of making the cross with the thumb. And the first two fingers, whereas the other text does not. Catholics use the whole hand. So to remember it, you can imagine that the Catholics prefer to grasp with the whole hand because they are more greedy. No, so the sign of the cross, Catholics would do like this, I think, with the whole hand, while the Orthodox would do like this, in this opposite direction, only with the three fingers. Speaking of that, Greek Orthodox Church in front of me, here in Piraeus, it's Easter now, and it's actually Easter times indeed now, April the 19th, and Paroufi, I'm studying modern Greek. Paroufi, this is Paroufi Edge, and this is a painting by Fra Angelico, Christ on the edges of hell. Christ on the edges. Okay, anyhow, excuse me for the digression. I will move on. So, here Wheeler, the author of this article, he compares with the Lord's Prayer. For yours is the kingdom, and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Matthew 6:13. This is interpolation, perhaps, because we don't find it in Matthew 6:13. Only in certain text traditions, later text traditions. And so I know I have studied the Greek New Testament, so I know all this already. And there is a certain Roman Catholic seminarian known as Elias Levi. He knows that the doxology in the Greek New Testament, that is, what is the doxology? Is for yours is the kingdom. This is known as the doxology. Is omitted for the normal Christians. And Levi, surprisingly enough, thinks that this doxology had a mystical significance and was only used for priests, that only priests used it. That is, on his time, he's speaking about 100 years ago. Today, of course, the case is not that, but strikingly enough, Strikingly enough, Roman Catholics don't usually say yours is the kingdom, the power and the glory. So in the later part of the Lord's Prayer, we read in the Latin version, Se liber nos a malo, libertas from the evil, cuia tumes renium, et potentias et gloria in secula seculorum. So the last part has often been omitted. Is omitted from the scientific editions of the New Testament, whether the Greek or Latin version. But for Levi, this line from Matthew 6:13 had a mystical significance. Cuia tumes renium, potentias, et gloria in secula seculorum. Mystical, very mystical. So here, so Levi writes, for thine. So you should raise, I will actually try to imitate it. You raise your hand to forehead. For thine is, and then down hand to the priest, the kingdom. To the left shoulder the justice, and to the right shoulder and the mercy. And clasping your hands in the generating ages. Dibi sunt malkut et gebura et seset per aionas. A sign of the cross, which is absolutely and magnificently Kabbalistic, which the profanations of Gnosticism have lost completely to the official and militant church. So it contains a lot of interesting information. Then it speaks about the number 4. I think I will jump over that. It's earth, air, fire and water. Yes, no, I will actually mention that. It's important. Let me see, but not in this context. I will jump a little bit further in this article. So when you face the east, you should use the Hebrew form of the of God's name, Yahweh. Let me see if I can find the passage. It's very here, for instance. For the easterly wind, when you face the east, is the air. South wind is the fire. Let me see. Here. The name of Jehovah, the tetragrammaton, is vibrated after the pentagram is thrown into the east. Tradition tells us that Yahweh is the symbol for the highest, most divine name of God. Therefore, it is appropriate that his name is vibrated the east, the place of the dawning of the light. While Adonai is said towards the south. That is very fascinating. Air to the east. This is interesting. Let me continue here. Yes, so my favorite part was actually, okay, Lord's Prayer was very interesting about Matthew 6:13, but except for that, I love this part. There is this invocation of the archangels. So I will try to, so I should be standing with the arms outstretched in the form of cross. Now holding the camera I cannot. Okay, no excuse, it's not that at all. So you do of course like this. Of course with the right, and then I will imitate with my left holding. So let's imagine that I actually holding my hands in a cross, and then I should say before me Raphael, behind me Gabriel, At my right hand, Mikael. At my left hand, Uriel. So, so this is called in Golden Dawn as the Calvary Cross. So, before me, Raphael. Let's do some laughing. I love laughter yoga because it's good for your health. It facilitates your understanding. So, let's say Raphael in front of me and laugh. So inhale and then exhale and laugh. So before me, Raphael. Behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Mikael, and my left hand, Uriel. And then 25, it says that Gabriel and Mikael appear in the canonical book of Daniel, while Raphael appears in the Deuterocanonical book of Tobit in the Septuagint, and Uriel appears in the apocryphal books of Enoch, Zechariah, Esdras. And so this is an interesting invocation that you could do on your own each morning. It could be a good stretching exercise. Stand in a form of cross and say, before me, I stand like this, before me, Raphael. And Raphael, of course, you should say it with reverence, but still lightheartedly, I think. So, and then interestingly, this article mentions Goethe, the great Goethe. He actually influenced Golden Dawn. So this is an example of a single example when a literary work influenced ritual. So in Faust we read, Mephistopheles explains that to Faust that the pentagram is preventing him from leaving the latter's study. How then did he manage to enter in the first place? It appears that there is a fatal gap in the shape of the pentagram. Mephistopheles. I must confess that forth I may not wander. My steps by one slight obstacle controlled. The wizard's foot that on your threshold made is. Yeah. This threshold here. Threshold. Faust replies, the pentagram prohibits thee. Why tell me now, thou son of Hades, if that prevents, how comes thou into me? Could such a spirit be so seated? Mephistopheles replies, inspect the thing, the drawing is not completed. The outer angle you may see is open left, the lines don't fit it. Footnote 74, a Taylor translation, and then this scene was known to the contemporary occultists. Interestingly, it is the only element of the lesser of this pentagram ritual which appears to have been consciously borrowed from a work of fiction. Here I would have recommended Wheeler to include a picture. It's difficult to grasp exactly what is meant with open left. There are no pictures in this article. And then he speaks about eclecticism and codification was the purpose in Golden Dawn, or rather for these matters. He borrowed from many sources, eclecticism, but he wanted to codify, so it would be a fixed tradition, fixed rituals. So this was a very interesting article. Golden Dawn was a mixture of Christianity and pagan rituals that these matters. Here. This on page 36. It is far from obvious whether the kingdom, the power and the glory belong to God or a promise to the human carrying out the ritual. So this is a lot of this ambiguity. This is genial, I think, would say, that you leave it open. While in Matthew 6:13, se liberano sa malo, cuia tuum est regnum et potentes et gloria. There is about God in Lord's Prayer. But here, in Golden Dawn, it's left open. Cuia... So that is fascinating, indeed, and I learned much from this paper, and I finished reading today, Piraeus, and I think that Wheeler, I'm very grateful to Wheeler for this article. I'm of course also grateful for our teacher Bogdan, who has put up a magnificent course. I'm also grateful to the universe that I'm able to read this course about esotericism. I say hallelujah to ambiguities and to empowering the individual. That is esotericism much about. If you want to summarize what is esotericism about, it's about empowering the individual, and that's what we need more of. So I say I am grateful, very grateful, always grateful.